of the air.
Assalamu alaikum. We are back with a new episode of Roundup.
That's right, we have a lot of interesting stories for you today. But let's start, as always, with the headlines. Microsoft has announced users can now delete all passwords from their accounts and instead log in using an authenticator app or other solution. In March, the technology powerhouse made passwordless accounts available for all its business customers. That system is now being made available to all Microsoft or Windows users. If passwordless login is enabled, users re-logging in will be asked to give their fingerprint or other secure unlock on their mobile phone. Musfiqur Rahman has been named overall winner of this year's Mangrove Photography Awards. His stunning image titled A Brave Livelihood shows a Bangladeshi wild honey gatherer subduing giant honeybees with smoke. It was selected for more than 1,000 entries from across 65 countries. 4 amateur astronauts got the ride of their lives in the past week, making history as part of the SpaceX Inspiration 4 mission. The mission was the first orbital trip where no one on board was a professional astronaut. The 4 Americans orbited the Earth for 3 days after taking off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. They spent much of their time advancing medical research on how the human body reacts to being in space. So, how many of you woke up this morning and had eggs for breakfast, probably along with some toast? I know you probably did, Jinnah.
I may have, but where are you going with this?
Well, I guess where I'm going with this is that many of us live in the city and we have the luxury of walking into a shop to pick up some groceries. But many of these groceries come from farms across the country. We head over to one such farm in the south of England, where Ursel finds out more about farming.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. You've heard about farms. You may even have been to one to see some animals. But have you ever wondered what life is like living on one? We've come all the way to an organic farm to find out the answer. Over 250 pasture-raised chickens live on this farm. Now let's go inside and see where the chickens are kept. How many times a day do you have to feed the chickens?
We normally feed the chickens 3 times a day because of how hungry they should be.
The chickens eat organic multi-grain pellets as well as any insects that they may find in the grass. So now that we've got all the eggs, what are we going to do with them?
We just put them into trays.
So let's go put these eggs into some trays. They can lay up to 100 eggs a day. This means that the eggs have to be collected at least 3 times. So here we are by the tractor.
The right side of the chair is where you carry all the things inside of the scoop, and the back side of the tractor is how you cultivate the grass, you cut it, you plant seeds and all the other things that you can roll it and things like that.
So Dale, can you tell us a bit more about these devices behind us? I think they look like solar panels to me, am I right?
They are solar panels. We have about 30 of them, and they can contain about 10 kilowatts of energy.
That is awesome. That is a lot of energy, and just from the sun. Agriculture is one of the biggest contributors to climate change. This is because of the methods used to clear land for farming, the tractors used and the machinery used. They all run on fossil fuels, and so this is why agriculture can have a negative impact on the environment. However, sustainable solar panels such as this are helping to combat this. Now let's move on and have a look at the sheep that live on this farm. So what is this that you're holding?
These are sheep nuts. These attract the sheep to us so we can feed them all the medicines that they have to have, so just to make sure they don't die or anything like that.
There are 2 different breeds of sheep that live on this farm. The Dutch Zwart Bulls and the New Zealand Romney, as well as a crossbreed of the 2. Sheep are herbivores. This means that they only eat plants. Therefore, they graze all day on the grass on the farm. So here we are inside the shed where all of the wool is kept. This wool has been harvested from the sheep. Basil, can you tell us a little bit more about what's going to happen to the wool next?
This wool is from our own sheep and is left here to dry
to go to a factory which will get cleaned out and we can make new clothes with it.
As you can see, this wool is very soft and it actually feels just like the clothes that are made from wool, which is surprising because it looks like this. So we've had a great day at the farm. We've seen loads of stuff. We've seen the chickens and the eggs that they lay. We've seen the sheep, the lamb that they give and the wool that they produce. It's great as someone from the city to see how people live in the countryside in close proximity to nature. I would highly recommend all of you guys to get outside into the countryside right next to nature. I've kept this bit of wool from the sheep as a bit of a souvenir. But until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Jazakallah for that report, Arsul. It's really nice to have an insight into what farming life's really like.
Now last Friday, our beloved Hazur, may Allah be his helper, delivered his Friday sermon from the Mubarak Mosque in Islamabad.
Let's find out more with our regular Friday sermon summary.
Assalamu alaikum, my dear brothers and sisters. As you know, our beloved Hazur, Aidullah Ta'ala bin Nasrul Aziz, has been delivering his Friday sermons regarding the companions of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Last Friday, Hazur continued to speak about Hazrat Umar Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu, the second Khalifa of Islam, and particularly about the Battle of Yarmouk. Before we get into what was said in the khutbah, did you know that Hazrat Umar Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu is buried next to the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in Masjid Nabawi in Medina? In the sermon, Hazur mentioned some incidents relating to Hazrat Umar Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu, particularly those surrounding the Battle of Yarmouk against the Romans. We can't cover them all in this segment, but here's a couple. Hazur spoke about how the Muslims fought against a huge Roman army of around 200,000 soldiers, when the Muslim army itself was only between 30 and 35,000, including men and women. Many times we have heard Hazur emphasizing the importance of tabligh through your actions and character. And one such example was narrated to us by Hazur in this sermon about Hazrat Ubaidah Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu. Hazrat Ubaidah was seen praying his salah by a Roman Christian who became so interested that he decided to ask the companion of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam about Islam's perspective on Jesus Alayhi Salam. After Hazrat Ubaidah Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu had explained the teaching of Islam regarding Jesus, the Christian gentleman became so impressed and convinced that he accepted Islam. Indeed, it was the initial impact made by seeing Hazrat Ubaidah Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu praying with such dedication that sparked the interest of a Christian. No doubt, prayer makes anything possible. A key lesson for us all to understand. Beloved Hazur also narrated several incidents showing the honor and mutual love that the Muslim soldiers had for one another, as well as their immense levels of selflessness and sacrifice. Hazur narrated the very famous incident of when, after the battle had finished, Hazrat Ikrimah and a few other Muslim soldiers who had been fighting were found severely injured on a battlefield. Ikrimah was presented with water, but as opposed to just taking it for himself, he indicated that the person beside him should be given the water first. But when the water was presented to that person, he in turn also gave away his right and indicated that the person beside him should be given the water first. This beautiful example of sacrifice continued until the last person was presented with the water. But by the time this was done, he passed away. And during this time, all others, including Hazrat Ikrimah, also passed away. Although this was sad, it shows that this was the spirit of sacrifice that the companions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had. That they were ready and willing to give up their very lives, not just for the sake of Islam, but for the sake of their fellow human being. What a beautiful example and spirit of sacrifice for us to aspire to. These were just a few incidents from the sermon. To hear more inspiring incidents, please make sure to watch the full Friday sermon with your family. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah for the summary. And as always, we encourage you to watch the whole Friday sermon, which is available online.
Jinnah, we're back.
We're back? Oh, I just got a message saying that I want something. So I was about to enter my details.
Why, did you enter a competition or something?
No, not really.
Then it looks like you're just entering your details without knowing where you're actually sending them. And to me, this sounds like a classic phishing scam. It's very easy to fall for these, but there are ways of protecting yourself. Let's find out more.
How long has it been since you last used a phone, tablet, or computer? Not long, right? We all nowadays have access to these devices. But have you ever thought about how safe they are and what you could do to protect yourself online? Just this week, Apple announced an emergency update to their phones to prevent spyware that could infect iPhones and iPads. Microsoft has also added their security features to Windows devices. Sounds serious, but what is spyware, malware, and these cyber attacks you hear about? Well, they all have different names, but the aim is the same: to gain access to your devices and your personal data, sometimes with the aim to destroy the device completely. Now that's something you do not want to happen. Let's go and speak to our expert to find out more. Say you are using your computer, you needed to download a game. How would you know if the game was safe or not?
It's a very good question. First of all, let's understand when you download a software from a harmful website, what happens. So what hackers tend to do is they will try to find weakness on your device and then they will try to exploit it. So before you download any software or any game, you have to make sure that your Windows or your operating system is up to date, and then make sure antivirus is installed. So in case you accidentally download a malicious software which is pretending to be a game but it's not, at least you can minimize the damage on your device. Just make sure that you are not downloading a game from a website that is pretending to be the actual developers or creators website, but it's not. So these are the few steps you can follow to make sure your device is safe and the game you are downloading and installing is not harming your device.
Is there any way to access your mobile phone without your data being stolen?
So there are few steps you can, simple few steps you can follow to try and make sure your mobile is safe. For example, when you are not connected to a Wi-Fi or when you are not using a Bluetooth, just make sure it's off. When you are accessing your mobile phone on a public hotspot, normally public hotspots are not safe. So when you are in a public space, try not to access any sensitive information. Try not to log into a website with passwords, because public hotspots are not safe and people are trying to keep an eye on your personal and sensitive information like passwords, so they can later on steal your data. So these are the few steps you can follow. Well, there are many more steps you can do, but if we start explaining all of them, it will be a long session. So hopefully that is helpful. If you follow some of these best practices, you can make sure your data is safe.
By the grace of Allah, the Jamaat has been established in over 200 countries, with more mosques being built every year. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see all of these mosques ourselves, and I know there's many mosques which I'd love to visit around the world.
Well, Jangir, luckily we have our young reporters all over the globe who are going to give us a tour of some of these mosques. Let's go to Kababir, where Irfan is going to give us a tour of the Mahmood Mosque in Haifa.
يا من أحاط الخلق بالآلاء نثني عليك وليس حول ثنائي.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Irfan and I will take you for a tour around the mosque. This mosque is known as Mahmood Mosque, which was built in 1931. As you can see, this mosque is built in the city of Haifa on Mount Carmel. The foundation stone of this mosque was laid by Hazrat Maulana Jalaluddin Shams.
يا رب آمنا بأنك واحد رب السماء وخالق الغبراء.
Around 400 people can do their prayers in this mosque at a time. This is the mission house, which includes guest rooms along sit-out to attend guests. This is the exhibition room, where we can see the Holy Quran translated in different languages and Jamaat books. This is the Mosque Tour Center, which has MTA studio, an auditorium, and offices. As you can see, this beautiful mosque, which is located on the top of the mountain, which can be seen from far away. Many visitors come to our mosque and mission house here daily to get acquainted with the real Islam. I hope I gave you a good tour to the mosque. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That is all the time we have for now. Make sure to send us your comments and feedback to roundup@mta.tv or on Twitter and Instagram at roundupmta.
Make sure you follow us on your social media accounts for updates and tune in next week for another episode of Roundup.
Until then, Assalamu alaikum.
Thy message to reach all the corners of the earth.